Hey there to all of my Substack subscribers. This is Donald Earl Collins coming to you once again from the Substack Fool's Code, Confessions from an Educated Fool. Hey, to all my new subscribers who subscribed for free, to the ones who are paying subscribers who subscribed recently, to those who've decided to buy Spinning Sage's Gold, or at least thinking about it, for those of you who have started reading it and commenting on it to me, thank you. Thank you all for partaking in the experience known as Fool's Gold, Confessions from an Educated Fool, and for buying Spinning Sage's Gold as well. Appreciate it. I'm going to do something that authors normally do when they publish a book, which is to read from my book. I'm going to read from the book, and I'm going to do a series of these over the next few weeks to see if I can get more people pique their interest in reading Spinning Sage's Gold and getting back to me on it, and so on and so forth. But we're in the early stages of testing the book, testing the first edition, beta testing, if you will, and part of that should be me promoting my book. I'm not the greatest entrepreneur or marketer in history by any stretch. I've raised some money before, but here we go. So I'm just want to read a little bit from the first essay, the first allegorical essay. It's in the immediate aftermath of what we're starting to go through now in terms of climate change, genocide, starvation, war, pandemic, everything else that's been happening in the last 10, 20, 30 years. It escalates to the point where a good portion of life is wiped out, including most of humanity. And on the other end of this is the start of what would be the post-Western world, at least in the mind of Donald Earl Collins, which in this case is the UN basically taking over and running the world from a governmental standpoint and creating what would be the second declaration of human rights. But this would be binding. It would be a legal binding document for the entire world. And so the scenario is that it's like the equivalent of a world constitutional convention, except that it doesn't happen over 3 really hot months in Philadelphia in 1787. It happens over 3 very hot years in the aftermath of basically a whole bunch of apocalypses between the end of the 20th century and the end of the 22nd century. So I'm just giving you that as a sort of dynamic to talk about what I really want to talk about, which is how does religion play a role in how we get to the place where the world is destroying itself, where humanity is being self-destructive, that most of humanity ends up dying as a result, and what do we do about it? So let me read from this essay and give you some sense of what the book is about, right? The fantastical within the allegorical, if you will, right? So keep in mind the the original UN Declaration of Human Rights is from 1948. It doesn't have nearly as many pages and as many articles, but I'm going to go through this anyway. So the year is basically somewhere between 2189 and 2192. In all, the new declaration was 83 pages long and contained 137 articles. The first articles were rather obvious and easily agreed upon ones. Human trafficking, mass incarceration, and other forms of slavery were forbidden. Universal basic income, free health care, free housing, free education, and free access to food were also part of the declaration. The body had also outlawed waging war, systemic racism, private corporations and foundations, arranged marriages, and the use of fossil fuels for even recreational purposes. The UN also instituted a 30-year process for eliminating the use of currency worldwide, as they had committed the world to megawattage as the living standard for every person on the planet. Some parts of the Declaration, however, proved far more difficult to address and took up significant time in debates and in shouting matches between 2189 and 2192. Religion was one such article. After centuries of eschatological debate, eschatological cults calling on the culling of various groups of humans, the group representing their zones and their various niches of expertise were through. Many had recommended the banning of all major world religions, especially Christianity. As the West had set the world to flooding, freezing, and fire, Westerners who had claimed to be Christians were all too willing to write off billions of humans. But many saw this as an opportunity to ensure that the baby didn't get thrown into the garbage pile with the dirty diapers. Dr. Felton Samuel Major Mushansi Levy Collins. He usually went by Dr. Felton with his colleagues or Sam Major with his family and friends, was one such visionary. He was part of what became known as the Cambrai Commission. The UN charged the 24 members with finding the balance between religion, atheism, and the protection of cultural and human rights. Upon joining the commission, one of Dr. Felton's colleagues said, "This is a fool's errand in search of fool's gold." It was 60 days of nearly nonstop bickering and sniping about how religion is for people who want to believe in fairy tales on the one hand, versus ungodly scientists whose ancestors helped destroy the world on the other. Muslim scholars wanted Christianity gone. Buddhists and Hindus wanted to reinstate the West and China's ban on Islam. Sikhs and Baha'i wanted to celebrate the universal language of human rights and agape love within all religions. And that, and that led Dr. Felton to an idea. That's the first, the bottom. That's the bottom of the first page of the essay and second page of the essay in a nutshell. And I think it encapsulates where we are as a world now, and probably where we're going to be once we get through to the other end of this, assuming the whole world isn't just blown to smithereens by nuclear weapons, along with climate change and pandemic and other things, even alien invasions, I suppose. And that is this: what do we do about folks like evangelical Christians, like folks who might be Islamists, who are Zionists, who are also practicing Judaism at the same time, who are ethno-nationalist Hindus and so on and so forth, and anti-theists who just want to kill people who believe in God at all. There are some of those people. There are some people like that. What all of them have in common, quite frankly, is the idea that there's going to come an ultimate reckoning for humanity and for all life on this planet, where the forces of good, so to speak, and the forces of evil meet, and in a collision that's not that much unlike the collision between antimatter and matter, basically almost annihilate each other, with billions and billions of creatures and humans dying in the process. That the problem that we have right now is the problem of a colonized religion like Christianity, and Stacy Patton's right about this. Christianity has been colonized over the last 1500 to 1800 years by European values, by Roman values and Greco-Roman values first, but overall the West values. So it doesn't really look like the religion of social and economic revolution the way that it was when Jesus was actually walking among us, right? That kind of thing. Instead, we have a religion that people are using to bolster racism, xenophobia, transphobia, homophobia, misogyny, patriarchy, imperialism, capitalism, federal colonialism, that justifies genocide, that says that climate change is a hoax, even though we're feeling it every day, that believes that the name of Jesus is like some sort of electromagnetic force field that keeps us from catching COVID, among other things, and would rather try Lysol down the throat or some sort of heart worm removing um, drug that takes care of things for dogs and horses, but not for humans. That's the way. That's the world that we're in. That people have taken religion and are using it as a culture to hit other people upside the head and beat them to death, basically with it. And we're doing that the world over. The only way that some people see us recovering from that is by banning religion altogether. And there are people like that now, right? On the other hand, organized religion does help people form community, form cultures, form a sense of purpose, of value for family, for life, for dignity, for social justice, even, and it has played that role. The problem is that the West and organized religion in general beyond the West has been corrupted to basically say whatever people want it to say. And so in this essay, the main issue is how do we get a middle ground? And the middle ground is simple. We can't allow we can't allow extremists, religious extremists, people who are part of these cultures, these religious cultures, these organized religions, to allow their devolution story, the story of collapse, the story of apocalypse, the story of Armageddon in the case of Christianity, to dictate to the world that this is where they think things are going. So ultimately, there's going to be a ban of these eschatological debates. Eschatology, of course, being this idea that we're going to reach this crossroads where good and evil come and fight and kill a whole bunch of us. No, we're not going to let you put your thumb on the scale. We're not really supposed to know when the end's supposed to be coming anyway. So no one gets to put their thumb on the scale, not because they wear cloth or a robe or something on their head that indicate, or some cross or crescent or Star of David or whatever, and be able to say to people, this is how things are going to be. You don't get to demagogue yourself and proselytize yourself in that light. And so that's really the debate that's going on in this allegory. And it's a debate that we need, quite frankly, we need to have now. We have just sort of thrown up our hands and saying these people are crazy. Of course they're crazy, but they're also in power. And because they're also in power, we have to be able to deal with this before it's too late. Or if we're going to assume that this is all that is happening and spinning Sage's goal is going to happen, then at least be prepared on the other side to deal with the consequences of that and what to do about it in the future, right? So either way, religion's a big issue here. And religiosity and holier than thou Pharisees and Sadducees going around saying that things should be a certain way. And the reason why the world is messed up is because they want to go after vulnerable people. So the fact that the religion's helping us mess up the world. So that's my 2 cents for today.